Oh, I love the crown. Looks so
I
good.
know I'm still getting used to it. This is only my second time putting it on, so we'll see
I
how
love,
it
thank
goes.
you. Thanks for putting it on. Thank you for being on here. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, absolutely. Nowhere else.
Let me let me turn this up too. Oh my goodness. Okay. So I'm so excited to ask you questions about your business and then talk a little
Yeah,
bit about your next step with being Mrs. Petite USA.
I know, crazy.
So cool. I mean, okay, real quick. When I was watching you on stage, I was like, oh my gosh, Claire is like, you were on fire. I ran into you in the elevator and I was like, mm-hmm.
Well, thank you. I'm glad that it came across that way. There were definitely nerves that I feel like I was able to like push through this year that last year got the better of me. And I feel like this year I think my headspace was just a lot more clear and focused, and I think that helped. So
But you looked amazing. So
thank you.
congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so the cookie jar by Claire. I was perusing your website and I see you only ship locally, correct?
Yeah.
Like, otherwise I was like, I'll book you over here in Wisconsin.
I would love to, but with cottage food laws and shipments of goods like that, it gets a little bit dicey. And then also they're very fragile. And so I have shipped to like family members and whatnot, and a lot of times they break and it's really sad. And so I try and avoid it because it's just too iffy, you know?
Yeah, no, definitely. That makes sense. Okay, so how did the cookie jar come to be?
So prior to, the cookie jar, I was like 9 months pregnant with my first daughter, Blake. And I was going through my credential program for a multiple subject teaching credential in elementary education. And I have my undergrad in education and had, been working towards obtaining my credential. And I was student teaching at the time. And that's when the COVID pandemic hit. And as we all know, that changed the landscape of teaching and education drastically. And so, right at the end of my student teaching program, they decided to move to virtual learning because that was right about March of 2020. And that's when California decided to move to virtual learning. I was able to finish my credential. Like, I was on my last week when it happened, of my
Oh,
last week of
wow.
student teaching. So it worked out for that.
Mhm.
But between that and being 9 months pregnant and then having my daughter during the pandemic, it definitely just changed how teaching and education looked. And I'm like, I don't know if this is how I want to start my career in education, if this is, you know, how it is, the dynamics of it were so different than what I had envisioned. And because we had time off with summer break and COVID hitting all at the same time, I had like time to really reflect on what I wanted to be doing. And I thought, there's no better time or opportunity than to try things out that you never thought you'd try out.
Mhm.
And I had always baked for loved ones and whatnot. And so many people had constantly told me, like, you need to start a business, you need to start a business. But I come from a family that's very, traditionally focused. So,
Okay.
my parents, my dad always held a job that had a salary. There was never any iffiness as far as, your career and your financial stability goes. So my husband, on the other hand, comes from a background of, entrepreneurs and people that are, not afraid of that dynamic or landscape. And so he was very much my main source of motivation and push to really try it. And he's like, at this point, like, there's no harm in trying it. And if it's something that you've always wanted to do, there's no better time than right now than when we're all stuck in
Mhm.
our houses
No, that's a good point.
watching Tiger King. So we're, I'm like, okay, we'll give it a shot. So I just started it out really just as like, let's see what happens. This is just a hobby kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it just grew from there and it took off from there. And I am just so blessed to be able to do something that fulfills my creative outlet. I'm very creative.
Mhm.
So it's something that I'm able to utilize that sense of creativity in. Um, and yeah, I love it. And it's been kind of a crazy ride, and I'm just kind of feel like I'm just along for the ride. But yeah, it's been a learning curve for sure. Obviously, running your own business comes with responsibilities and things that being an employee doesn't come with that. And yeah, it's a learning curve, but we're just I'm down for it. We're here for it.
That's awesome. Well, that kind of leads me to my second question I had for you is, so a few years ago, I've worked in retail my whole life with clothes, and I love clothes, and I like working with people. So I always thought maybe someday I would have my own boutique. But the part that always intimidated me was the operational side, like the business aspect of it. So if you
Yeah.
don't mind, you don't have to go super in depth, but just kind of like high level, like what all like legal business ops side did you have to do for having your own business?
Yeah, so obviously it's different for something like retail and whatnot as opposed to being a cottage food. So cottage food means it's like a bakery business that's run out of your own home. So I don't have a storefront right now. It's one of my ultimate goals is to open up a storefront and have my own brick and mortar bakery. But right now, luckily, we have like a mother-in-law suite in my house that has like a full kitchen and whatnot. So
Oh,
we've kind of converted
nice.
that into my own little at-home bakery. And my daughter calls it the cookie cave because she knows she's not allowed in there and all the cookies are made in there. And but as far as the business side of it, so obviously insurance is a huge thing, especially when you're dealing with food. So making sure that you have the proper protections legally. I made sure I had all of my certifications, my food handler's license, and things like that. Making sure I had proper licensing within the state of California. I know it varies different from state to state. So for me, just getting all of those ducks in order was really important prior to, starting any sort of operation. And that's definitely for me was also the part that was the most overwhelming and intimidating coming from a background that I was not, versed in that sort of thing. But luckily,
Mhm.
my husband is an independent contractor. He's a real estate broker. So he works under a brokerage, but he's an independent contractor. And so he's very familiar with, getting insurance for small business because he works with a lot of industrial and commercial real estate operations. So
Oh, nice.
he was
Okay.
a key help in that aspect of it. And then the rest of it was really just a lot of research and paperwork and making sure that I had, all the T's crossed and I's dotted and all the boxes checked.
Yeah.
And then as far as that goes, like once that main chunk of it was out of the way, I felt like, okay, I can breathe and like have fun with it now.
Mm-hmm.
And, as far as the daily operations go, that's all on me. I don't have anybody that's like helping me with that sort of it. So, making sure I'm keeping my books in order and whatnot is definitely not the fun part of it, but it's, a
But you're able
necessary
to.
part of having your own
Yeah.
business. But, um, I think luckily technology is at a place now where that's a key, help for me as far as like invoicing and keeping track of my records and payments and whatnot. That's definitely been a huge part of
Help.
it. So I'm lucky that I've been able to do that. I can't imagine like, even just like 10, 20 years ago when you had to keep paper books and make sure I'm like, I would be so lost
No,
if I didn't have this.
it's so funny. Okay, so I'm 37 and I had to write checks out, and my husband's a little bit younger than me, and he's like, I've
Yeah.
never written out a check. I'm like, how
Oh
have
my
you
gosh.
never?
You're like, don't make me feel old, honey.
I know. I was like, okay. Okay, so I love that you have your own bakery, and I have to tell you, so my son is 6, and we watch all these like baking shows, and the creativity and like the I don't know all the work that goes into it. So it makes me wonder like what are some of your favorite like pieces you've done that you've had like the most I'm sure you love all of them, but like what are some standouts that you've enjoyed making?
Well, it's funny. My favorite set I've ever done is also the hardest set I've ever done. And the set that when I was doing it, I was like, I'm never doing this again. But then, of course, when I was done with it, I'm like, oh, I love this. But I had a set about a year ago or so, and they wanted all of the Disney princesses. Um,
Cool.
but faces are so hard, and especially when you're working with like a recognizable character, that it has to read as that person, right? It can't just be like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, any face. It has to be Cinderella's face.
Yes.
And so I kind of got into it, not really expecting it. I mean, I knew it was going to be difficult, but whoo, it was so tough. But it's still one of my favorite sets was all the Disney princesses, and my daughter, of course, wanted an extra one, and I'm like, I can't make one more. Uh, but that I would say that one, as far as like that one was the most challenging for me, but also one of the more rewarding ones because once I was done with it, I'm like, I
It
did it.
turned
I was
out.
so proud.
Do you have a
Um,
picture of that one on your Instagram? On your
I
cookie?
do. I
Okay.
do, yeah.
I'm gonna look that
I
one
might
up.
have to scroll back, but yes.
Okay.
Um, and then another one, just because I'm like a huge Taylor Swift fan, I had an order for a Taylor Swift themed father-daughter dance for the elementary school that I went to growing up. And it
Um,
was they were hosting like their annual father-daughter dance, and they wanted an order of 225 Taylor Swift themed cookies, but they were doing like the Eras tour, so I got to do a bunch of them in the different eras. And I had so much fun like planning all of them. And I love,
yeah.
I went to her concert, so I'm like getting
You're
ideas.
like,
And
I'm qualified. I know what I'm doing.
right, I know what I'm doing here. And so that one was tough just volume wise.
Yeah, that's a
But
lot of cookies.
yes, especially because you're working with cookies is, you're working on a short time frame because of shelf stability and making sure they're fresh for the client, right? So you can't prep,
Sure.
a month in advance like you could with something that wasn't edible.
And
So,
it's
you're
all
working on a
different themes too. It's not like you're making the same 200
thing over and
cookies.
over and over, right?
Yeah.
Which is fun when you're in it because you don't get burnt out on making, 200 of the same cookie.
Yeah.
But it's difficult as far as planning and prep goes because with, the cookies that I do, everything is hand mixed. So all of the colors, I like color match individually. And
Wow.
when you're making the cookies, there's different textures of icing depending on the detail that you're doing. So there's like a flooding icing for like your background coat of icing, and then you have like a stiff peak for really into like very fine details. You have soft peak for writing. There's so all of
Wow.
those things are very, so you might need black, right? But you could have four different textures of black. So there's a lot of minutia that goes into planning a set like that because there's so many
Mhm.
colors and so many details that you're having to plan and organize. And so it was definitely a feat, but it turned
That's
out.
awesome. Okay, I'm excited to look at those. So question for anyone that watches this, because I'll put this on the YouTube.
Yeah,
Anyone that is the YouTube. Um,
the Facebook.
anyone, yeah. Anyone that is thinking about starting their own business with bakery, like doing any type of like work like you, what is something you wish you would have known or some advice you have?
Um, I guess I would say I still struggle with this sometimes. Is like don't overbook yourself because I have a really hard time saying no because I love my clients and I get so excited and personally invested in like their ideas and I get like, yes, I get to do that.
Yeah.
And I get so excited about it that sometimes I overpromise. And, of course, I always end up delivering, but I might not sleep for the week before that. But I would say just be, very cognizant of how you're allocating your time. Always plan for things to take longer than they're going to.
Mhm.
And just, make sure that you're pacing yourself and dedicating, time to also rest and take time for yourself. As a business owner, it's really easy to not give yourself that time and to be like, I don't need lunch. I don't need to sleep tonight. It's fine. Whereas, if you have an employer, those things are built in and,
This is
their
like
job
at
might.
your home. So yeah, I could see
Right.
where it's
This
hard
is
to.
very easy to become all consuming because it's
Hmm.
in my house. I'm like, I walk downstairs and can go to bed at 3 a.m. It's fine when really, you need rest. So,
Yeah.
just make sure you're thinking of it as a business and not letting it completely take over your life because especially when it's in your house and it's your baby, right? It's easy
Hmm.
to lose that and to let it become all consuming, but that's when burnout happens. That's when, you lose your excitement for it. That's, when the quality of your work suffers, and all of those things are just, it's not worth it. You know, it's just, it's really important to, I build breaks into my, while I'm designing, I'll be like, okay, I set a timer for, 2 hours or something. And I'm like, okay, I can sit down and I can decorate for 2 hours. And then I get to get up and have, I have usually like a treat. I'll be like, I get to get up and have some Halo Top, and I'm gonna
Yes.
watch like 10 minutes of this pageant on YouTube, and then we're gonna get back to it. So,
Mhm. Mhm. That sounds
but
about
it's
right.
good, it keeps you, it
Yeah.
refreshes you, and it keeps you fresh, and keeps you from that burnout, which is a real thing with your own business, is making sure you're avoiding that burnout and that fatigue as far as, running the business and executing and organizing, and all of that can become a lot.
No, that's really good advice. Okay, what's your favorite Halo Top flavor?
Okay, so they have the mix-ins ones, which are
Yes,
so much better than the
they
original.
they are. But they're like 100 more calories than before.
It's worth it. It's worth it because I would rather be enjoying it, and I'm like, they're so good. And okay, so the cookie brownie mix one, mm,
Mm-hmm.
delectable, so
That
good.
one's
I could eat a whole
yeah.
thing. I'm like, it's so good.
I okay. So at Christmas time, they have the gingerbread house. Have you had that before?
I have, but I don't love gingerbread. I tried
Okay,
it, and I get it for people that like gingerbread, so good, but it's not my thing.
it's not your flavor. When there's like
Yeah.
there's the little chunks of like icing, like the frosting
Yes,
part that you
those are
get. I'm like,
good.
oh.
You're like, oh
But okay, so let's switch gears and talk about Universal Petite.
yay.
So
Yes.
I know a little bit because of being part of the Petite USA system.
Hmm.
But for anyone watching that doesn't know Petite, can you talk about Universal Petite and like what's coming up for you?
Yeah, so once you're crowned, the Petite USA, one of the title holders. So for me, Mrs. Petite USA, it's a preliminary to Universal Petite. So we move on to the Universal competition. We'll be representing the United States, which is crazy. And so it's next year, next June. And the actual pageant is held on a cruise out of Tampa to Cozumel, Mexico, which is so fun and unique and just so different. I love that Hazley does that, and just, I mean, it makes it into just a whole experience. And so I'm super excited about that. I'm still learning about all of the like ins and outs and what's, all the events and requirements and whatnot. And it's so exciting. But as a Mrs., I'll be competing in obviously interview, and then fun fashion, which is new for me because at Petite USA we do fitness. And so fun fashion I've never done, but I'm really excited. I'm getting some cues from our associate director and universal coordinator, Catherine Banstra. I'm like, please help me with this because I don't know what I'm doing for fun fashion. Like, what is happening? So she's helping me, thank goodness. And
Cool.
and then of course